Hello and welcome to week 6 of The Awakened Family by Dr. Shefali. This is an 8-week study group that Sisterhood Connections has put together to really help inspire conscious change. I'm Jena Harris, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sisterhood Connections, and I'm joining with the lovely Maricela Rios in Idaho, who is also the laughter leader in Sisterhood Connections. She hosts a laughter session each and every month, and for more information on that, you can visit our website at sisterhoodconnections.org. So this week, Mari, we talk a lot each week. It's been a fun and adventurous journey with Dr. Shefali's wealth of knowledge and kind of how it's applying in our life, and it's been just amazing. And I just want to ask you, what stood out for you this week? What was like that pivotal moment, in pages 216 to 258?
Well, thank you, Jena. My pivotal moment was actually chapter 16, and I'll narrow it down. It says from chaos to stillness. And she talks about the power of silence in page 221 and goes in all the way to page 225. So I'll just pick out a few things that really stood out. Dr. Shefali says, one of our greatest untapped allies in life is silence. And I'm thinking, okay, I've never thought about silence being an ally in that form. It's doing is my ally for me. That's the personality. The more I do, the more, the better I am, the more achievable I am, the better mom I am. And she goes on saying, most of us are terrified to enter it, believing it to mean nothingness just because it doesn't involve some form of doing. Still in silence is uncomfortable for most of us, not only because it runs counter to the diet of constant busyness and achievement we are raised on, but because it puts us painfully in touch with the emptiness within where our true self ought to be. I know that's a little bit long, but I felt compelled to share it because of how our nature, our society, our culture has taught us on so many different levels that the more we do, the better we are. And again, now trying to shift that mentality where being still is so important as a parent, and that we don't constantly need to be telling them things or reminding them or reinforcing or redirecting. And I'm going to be honest, that made it really hard because I have a 3-year-old who has a lot of he has a lot of vibrant energy. And when we're trying to redirect, this week I caught myself, I'm like, okay, there was a lot happening right there. And I had to pause. And we were trying to get ready for bed. And I had to pause and go, Mari, okay, you've already said what you needed to say. Just enter that moment of silence, of stillness. And I did, and he immediately connected with it, and the whole dynamic changed. He was ready to go to bed, and I was like, oh, okay, what just happened? But that really spoke to me, was practicing the art of just being silent and observing what is happening between your child and you, what is allowing or what is interfering that is not allowing you to have that direct connection with your child. And oftentimes it just takes breathing and just sitting in that silence to connect with what is happening. So that was my pivotal moment, Jena. And I would be interested to hear if that spoke to you or if anything else in the book spoke to you.
Yeah, and you know what, Mari, as you're reminding me about that part in the book, really spoke to me too, that it is more about that balance of also being still and also, really, being present with them. A lot of times we do kind of repeat ourselves, and we're kind of like, they do know. And it is that practice of how does it go? Do, be, do. And it's that part, this stillness for me is really about remembering to be. And sometimes even, just like you said, when we want them to kind of connect, sometimes it takes us to sit back and be and connect, and then they do it, kind of follow suit like you said your son did. I've also kind of found that with Jabril is kind of that saying goes, be the change that you wish to see. When I kind of present what it is, even if it's calmness in the house, when I harness that energy and really be that kind of role model, I guess, for me, and kind of the work that I do is, I always say, you hold that vibration of what you're trying to create, and it kind of goes in line with what she's saying. But just like I've said in prior videos, Mari, and I'm going to admit, sometimes it's not as easy as when you're a parent, because we have been conditioned to think of that we are in that role of kind of controlling the outcome, and it's a whole different shift in perspective. It's way easier for me to do that within friends or out and about, or like in my past with a boss. Way easier to get into that space. So thank you for sharing that. That was a really good part of the chapters. Again, we were reading pages 216 to 258. And so I'm actually going to share my pivotal moment. There's so many, as we always say, but mine was actually on page 216. And she is speaking about transforming reaction to authentic expression. And I'm just going to read a little part in here. She says, parents are often scared that if they aren't allowed to react, they will feel suffocated, inauthentic, or resentful. There are ways to respond that are very different from reactivity. Many of us are simply unaware of how to communicate to each other without getting emotionally charged. We aren't used to being present with our feelings without allowing them to take charge, and neither do we know how to assertively stand up for ourselves without becoming aggressive. Few of us have learned to speak our truth in plain language. And then a little bit farther down, she says, transforming our reactions into expressions of authentic communication can create a powerful shift in a relationship with our children. This was huge to me, and I gotta say, because I have kind of held myself accountable in many situations as a parent. It's really, in this part, it brought to me that I do and I can get emotionally charged, because it's not kind of going in the way like you spoke about, getting the children to bed at night. You're trying to run a household, cook dinner, do all these different things. And sometimes the emotion itself can be bigger than kind of that reconnection. And so for me, her kind of bringing, because she shares examples like reaction, you are being disobedient, disrespectful. You're not going to speak to me in that tone. You're grounded this weekend. That's the reaction, where the parent's coming from this emotionally charged place, right? And she also shares a more authentic expression, and she shares like different examples. Like, I can see that you feel the need to resort to this negative tone toward me, or voice toward me. You obviously are feeling upset. I am going to take a 5-minute break from the situation, and I suggest you take a few minutes to think about how you want to get your needs met. And so within that, even though that's probably not my style, exactly how she's saying it, but it triggered like how I can, and I think she was hitting the point as far as honoring how our children are feeling, but also setting boundaries, because it's not, she mentions in the book, it's not about them walking over us and all of that, which a lot of people perceive conscious parenting as surrendering everything to the children. And I don't see that at all. And I think that is what I gathered from that, is really finding new ways of how to better communicate to get the desired effect that's the healthiest outcome for everyone involved. And on page 219, I really loved this kind of poem kind of thought that she did. She left it as a new commitment to shedding the past. Even though I want to cling to what ought to be and all the ways life should have been, I know that my resistance to what is comes from fear, which blinds me to the jewels of the present moment. If I can let go of my need to control, I can enter the unknown with vigor, flow with grit, resilience, and power. I can become the agent of transformation I wish to witness. I greet the present moment with awareness and joy. So that was really big for me. And like I said, there's many situations that happen where I've even just this week had a moment with Jabril where, my emotions were there, but I actually recognized them, like, okay, this is no longer about him or the situation. It's now about me. And so this book has really helped me tap into that even deeper. So what do you think about that portion of the book, Mari? Did it bring anything up for you?
It did. Well, it did. And the one thing that came up as you were talking was the control part. We want to have control. And Dr. Shefali does an amazing explanation throughout the book that the control comes from our fear. And we talked about, or some of the things, the fears that she mentions, there's a great list, was like, the fear of, being in control, not have the lack of abundance, etc. So that's kind of where what jumped out to me was, oh, there's this control. So when things aren't happening the way it should happen, then we have a response to it. And then it goes downhill from there. And another thing that came to mind was, in our society, we want everything so fast and quick. Everything is instantaneous. Even the food that we prepare, if we want something cooked, we put it in the microwave. So we live on this fast track life. And I think we take it even to a deeper level, and it starts affecting the relationships that we have, because then we also have that same expectation for our children and our loved ones. And that's where it becomes hard, because our children are their own minds. So, it's hard to control our little ones, or other people for that matter. Yeah. But those were a couple of things that really hit home as you were talking, the control part and learning to not hold on to having things look a certain way.
That's really, really good. And I so much agree with everything that you're saying too. And I was thinking, because we always leave everyone with final thoughts each week. And I was thinking, what are kind of my final thoughts, as kind of an overview of what you brought forth and what I brought forth. And for me, I just want to leave everyone with the thought of, when you are noticing that you're emotionally having that emotional reaction, being emotionally charged, just not, we've said it often, not to judge yourself, right? But more about just take a moment. It doesn't mean that you have to respond right away. You can reevaluate, give yourself a break, and kind of recognize that sometimes you just kind of need that shift in perspective a little bit and cut yourself some slack. So that's my little 2 bits final thoughts for the people today. How about for you, Mari?
My final thought is actually going to be on what you just shared, a new commitment to shedding the past, where she says, I know that my resistance to what is comes from fear, which blinds me to the jewels of the present moment. And I loved that. I connected so much when she says, jewels of the present moment. Right here, right now is what matters. Not what happened in the past, not criticizing myself of what I did or did not do as a parent, and not what I should be doing as a parent, but right here, right now, the moment that I'm creating with my child is a jewel. It's the most beautiful thing.
I so much agree. So being very present moment, that is really, really, really good advice. And I have to remind myself of that too, because it's so easy to go in, not as much for me in the past, but more for me planning and doing all of that for the future. I actually have to kind of reel myself back also, and kind of one step at a time. And I really want to be mindful of being present moment with Jabril. So thank you so much, Maricela, for sharing today and sharing your journey and just sharing what you're getting out of this book. I know lots of people are watching these videos and getting lots of information even out of the book and our perspective. So thank you for that. And those of you who are following us with Sisterhood Connections, so if you are a woman in business who feels overwhelmed, isolated, or stuck on your journey, Raj Anderson and Raj Anderson is the Director of Leadership in Sisterhood Connections. We joined forces and we began Savvy Empowered VIP Roundtable Group. We've been in Maricela, you are in that group. We're getting so much. And sorry to put you on the spot. Do you have anything to add to kind of, we've been doing this for 3 weeks. It's been pretty transformative.
It's been very transformative. So if you are thinking about it, I would say at least give yourself the opportunity to join the group, and you'll notice right away. It's been amazing. I'm learning a lot. I'm growing a lot. I'm sharing a lot. I'm getting out of my comfort zone big time in a very healthy way. And I'm just learning about other leaders in this world and making connections, and I just love it. So join.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I think, we talk a lot, Maricela, you and I both have a passion for surrounding ourselves with a tribe of women, and this exclusive group is really women ready to dream big and to play big and live big and take their life and business to the next level. And so if you're interested in that, I'm going to put a link below the video, but you can also visit the website at savvyempoweredleaders.com. And also each week I mention that we would love to have you join our Sisterhood Circle of Light every Sunday, open to everyone, free of charge. You can also find more information about that at sisterhoodconnections.org. And Mari, thank you again, like I said, for joining. And I'm sending love from my heart to yours and everyone watching. And until next time, friends, be blissful.